Alrighty, guys, welcome to our NBA video here today for Saturday, October 22nd, 2022. My name is Brock Page, and I've been doing sports picks for free right here on YouTube since 2016. I also sell my personal sports bets on patreon.com/BrockPage. And if you want to see which one of these games I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a membership on my website. I currently have over 620 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. With that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Spurs at the Sixers, 6 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Philadelphia is minus 13, totals 223.5. And as bad as the Spurs are, I do think this is a really big number for the Sixers. They're 0-2 on the year already, and they scored just 88 points against Milwaukee the other day. And when it comes to rebounding the basketball, well, the Sixers are actually one of the worst in the East in offensive boards right now. They're facing a Spurs club who just dropped 137 points on Indiana last night. Keldon Johnson, he's scoring 21 points a game. He's knocking down 44% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Josh Richardson's gone 55% from three land himself. When it comes to the total, San Antonio's 2-0 to the over this year, 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Philadelphia. So if you're into historical trends, certainly want to think about that one there. I'm going to lean towards San Antonio plus 13, keeping this one close, over 223.5. Next matchup, Celtics Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Boston's minus 7, totals 218. Now, the Celtics are looking pretty strong right now. 2-0 start to the year with victories over the likes of Miami and Philadelphia. Jason Tatum's averaging 32 points a night, 55% shooting from the field as well for Tatum. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown, he's knocking down 40% of his three-pointers himself. Now, they're facing a winless Orlando team who continues to struggle offensively. The Magic's currently in the bottom 5 in scoring, and they're making just 29% of their shots from downtown. When it comes to the injury report, Suggs, Isaac, Wagner, Harrison, Fultz, they're all listed as questionable for Orlando. Now, when it comes to the total, I'm really not sure that the Magic can do enough to help put this one over. They also saw last night's contest versus Atlanta fall well short of the total. So with all that in mind, I'm going to lean toward Boston minus 7 and the under 218 in the tight window. Next ball game, Pistons, Pacers, 7 o'clock East. Detroit's the 1-point favorite on the road, totals 229.5. And even though the Pistons, they are favored on the road here, it's actually the Pacers who are scoring a whole bunch of points. Tyrese Halliburton's shooting 53% from the field thus far. Meanwhile, the youngster, Benny Mathurin, he's knocking down over 46% of his three-pointers. Good production out of the youngster. The Pacers are actually in the top 10 right now in scoring on average per contest. I know it's early in the season. We're only through a couple of games here, but definitely something to consider. Now, they're facing a Detroit squad who's dead last in the league in guarding the field goal. They also allowed 130 points to the Knicks just last night. When it comes to the injury report here, Burks and Livers are questionable. Bagley's still out. Meanwhile, for the Pacers on the other side, Tice and Turner are still out for them. Smith is listed as questionable. When it comes to the number, Detroit's gone 2-0 to the over to start the year. Meanwhile, Indiana's game against San Antonio last night, it got about 40 points above the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Indiana plus 1, over 229.5. Next matchup, Raptors, Heat, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Miami's minus 3 with a total at 214.5. But despite being favored by a bucket, the Heat's winless on the year, and they failed to cover in both of those losses. Now, when it comes to rebounding the basketball, they're officially in the bottom 10 in offensive boards. Now, they're facing a Toronto team who's one of the better defensive rebounding teams in the East right now. They're also doing a terrific job shooting the three ball. Freddie VanVleet, he's connecting on 58% of his three balls. Meanwhile, Gary Trent Jr., he is knocking down 40% of his three-pointers as well. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Boucher and Porter are day-to-day for Toronto. Yurtseven and Oladipo, they are questionable for Miami. When it comes to total, Miami saw their game last night against Boston fall 6 points under the total. Meanwhile, Toronto's 2-0 to the under themselves. I'm going to lean toward Toronto +3, under 214.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Cavaliers at the Bulls. That'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time in Chicago. Now, Cleveland's the 2-point favorite on the road right now. I wouldn't be surprised if that line flipped by tip-off, maybe end up as a pick'em or something like that. But right now, Cleveland is -2 on the road. Total's 217.5. And even though they are favored by a bucket on the road, I think Cleveland's going to have some problems offensively. They're facing a Bulls team who does a nice job of rebounding on the defensive end of the court. Meanwhile, when it comes to offensive production, DeMar DeRozan's scoring over 34 points a game, and he's making 40% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Nick Vucevic, he's averaging 12.5 rebounds a game himself. When it comes to the injury report, Garland, Windler, and Rubio, they are listed as out for Cleveland. When it comes to scoring, the Cavs saw their opener against Toronto stay under the total. Meanwhile, Chicago saw their game last night against the Wizards stay under the number as well. I'm going to lean toward Chicago +2, under 217.5. Next ball game, Rockets, Bucks, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Milwaukee's -12, totals 231. Now, the Bucks should be able to cover this number here. Houston's played some really bad defense through 2 games. Now, the Rockets are actually in the bottom 5 in the league right now in points allowed per contest. They're facing a Bucks team who held Philly to just 88 points on Thursday. They were also led by Giannis Antetokounmpo, who had 21 points and 13 rebounds. Now, injury-wise, Middleton, Connaughton, and Ingles are still out for Milwaukee. Meanwhile, for Houston on the other side, Washington and Tate are out as well. When it comes to total, Houston saw their game last night against Memphis get 21 points above the posted number. Plus, in addition to that, I'm really not sure the Rockets are going to be able to play enough defense to keep this one under. So I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Milwaukee -12 over 231. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Grizzlies at the Mavericks, 8:30 p.m. East. Should be a pretty good ball game here. Dallas is at -5.5, totals 220. Kind of a larger number there. You'd think this rev would be a little bit shorter. But anyway, the Mavs lost their opener to Phoenix, and they scored just 105 points in the loss. They're also facing a 2-0 Memphis squad who's shooting just about 40% from beyond the arc. John Morant's drilling 67% of his three-pointers. He's averaging over 41 points a game. Meanwhile, John Concher, he's making 47% of his shots from three-land himself. Now, injury-wise, Williams, Jackson, and Green, they're all still out. Meanwhile, Brooks, he's day-to-day. Meanwhile, on the other side of things for Dallas, Ntilikina and Bertans are out for them. Campazzo's questionable. When it comes to the total, Memphis is 2-0 to the over to start the year. I'm going to lean toward the Grizzlies +5.5, over 220. Next ball game, Thunder, Nuggets, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Denver's -8.5, totals 226. And for a team laying 8.5 points, the Nuggets have been quite poor on defense. They're allowing 123 points a game on average. And they actually rank in the bottom 5 in defending the field goal. They're facing an OKC team who's looked pretty tough defensively in their opening day loss to Minnesota. They actually held the T-Wolves to just 26% shooting from three-land. And of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he also had a real good game offensively. He scored 32 points and went 6 of 6 from the stripe. Now, injury-wise, Williams and Holmgren are still out. Meanwhile, for Denver, Gillespie's out. Murray's questionable. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma City +8.5 and the over 226. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Clippers at the Kings, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. The LA Clippers are -3, totals 223, but we are seeing movement toward the Kings and the under. A lot of line movement in this one because it looks like Kawhi Leonard and John Wall are going to sit this one out here today. Just one of their rest days, which is just, I hate that because their last game was like a couple days ago. So I can understand rest on a back-to-back, but I mean, get real. I mean, play the game. No passion for basketball when you're doing stuff like that. I mean, they're not like 38 years old like LeBron. Like, I can understand him doing that, but these guys are young enough. They can play every night. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I mean, they're not young. They're not, I wouldn't say they're all that young, but just the sitting out sucks. I hate it. As a sports fan, it sucks. But anyway, I actually do still think we can fade the square bettors and make a little money on the Clippers. Like I say every year, NBA bettors completely overreact to injuries, and the books know that. They know that when they set the lines. They know where the line's going to move, especially when somebody is sitting out or goes out. NBA's more than like any other sport. NBA bettors completely overreact to injuries. It's crazy. You know, they think they have an edge over the books, thinking that the books didn't know those guys were going to be out. Like, people lose a lot of money overreacting to injuries. Just keep that in mind. But anyway, the Clippers do still play superb defense. They should have Paul George in the lineup, too. It looks like he's going to play. PG scored 15 points in the opener, and he did have double-digit rebounds. Now, the Clippers are facing a Kings team who lost their opener to Portland. They had a tough time guarding the three ball. Now, total-wise, both teams saw their openers fall under the number. I'm going to lean toward the Clippers -3, under 223. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like San Antonio +13, over 223.5. Give me Boston -7, under 218. I like Indiana +1, over 229.5. Give me Toronto +3, under 214 and a hook. Chicago +2, under 217.5. Milwaukee -12, over 231. Memphis +5.5, over 220. OKC +8.5, over 226. With my next and final free pick for the video, I'm going to lean toward the Clippers -3, under 223.